The end is not near. Your startup failure is not the end of your hopes. It's the first step in the next iteration of your idea. In this video, I'll examine 3 catastrophic innovation fails that ultimately led to entrepreneurial success. Based on these, I'll walk through 5 ways your failure can fuel your new venture when you start small and iterate forward using the build, measure, learn loop. Let's get into it. Innovation number 1 is now a household name, and in fact, the very name of this product is a constant admission of failure. 39 failures, in fact. Failure example number 1 is WD-40. Did you know that WD-40 stands for Water Displacement 40th Formula? That's right, it took 39 failed attempts before the formula was perfected. Today, WD-40 is known everywhere. It's used everything from lubricating hinges to preventing rusts. It's often been said that all you need in life is duct tape and WD-40. If it doesn't move, and it should, use the WD-40. Just goes to show how a failed product can be the first iteration in your innovation process. And persistence pays off. Failure example number 2 really sucks. It's the Dyson vacuum cleaner. James Dyson went through 5,126 failed prototypes before creating his revolutionary bagless vacuum cleaner. The really crazy part is that he first started out by attempting to create the world's greatest wheelbarrow, an idea that just didn't carry. Today, 40 to 50 million Dyson vacuum cleaners are sold annually worldwide, according to OneDesk, and Zippia reported $7.3 billion in annual revenue for Dyson. It just goes to show if the market isn't looking for your product, consider a different problem. And if you're confident in your idea, never give up. Failure example number 3 had hosts of problems at first. AirBnB was founded by Brian Chesky, Joe Gebbia, and Nathan Blecharczyk. When they first launched, they were repeatedly rejected by investors, and they struggled to find users. The founders even had to resort to selling cereal to keep the company afloat. But they persevered. They learned from their mistakes by pivoting their business model and adapting to their user responses. Today, Airbnb is worth $73 billion according to Statista. Macro Trends reports almost $10 billion in annual revenue, and Backleader reports 448 million bookings per year, with 150 million users worldwide according to Search Logistics. What this example shows is if things aren't working, you need to pivot, go in a different direction, try finding a new problem, new users, or a new approach. There are 5 key learnings that we can take away from these failures. Number 1, embrace failure. It's not a question of whether you're going to fail or not if you're starting something new, particularly if it's a really innovative idea. The fact is you're going to fail, so embrace that failure. Every failure is getting you that much closer to a success, and lots of learning can happen along the way. If you knew for certain that you were going to succeed, then of course you would keep going. The team that developed WD-40 failed 39 times. James Dyson made over 5,000 attempts to create the perfect vacuum cleaner, and again, completely changed even the product that he was working on. And the Airbnb team had a world-changing technology, and yet it took them a long time and a lot of failures to be able to find it. Key learning number 2, start small and iterate forward. Even James Dyson's wheelbarrow presented the ball-shaped roller that would ultimately become part of the Dyson vacuum cleaner. So even though that first project was a failure, it did create some learning that became part of the final solution. And the same with both of the other examples. Each of the attempts to generate the WD-40 product got them that much closer to the one that was going to work. And of course, Airbnb looked very different in the end than it did in the beginning because they were working on new versions of the product going forward, even changing the products they were selling. And to make sure that they were going to succeed, even being willing to do some hard things to generate some revenue. Number 3, seek input and feedback. One of the things that was common among all 3 of these examples is they had mentors and advisors. They had investors, all who were pouring into them in terms of giving wisdom and advice and perspective and insight that was beyond their experience so that they could really build on these experiences, draw in that insight and apply it as they were learning. It helped to give them context for the failure that they were having and how they could apply that learning to move forward in a direction that could be a success. Key learning number 4, be ready to pivot. It's important to have steps along the way where you stop and think about whether what you're doing is working. In startup entrepreneurship, often there are what are called pivot and persevere moments or pivot and persevere meetings, a time when the founder team intentionally stops, reviews everything that they've done so far, everything that they've learned, and they make a decision whether to keep going and building on what they've learned, or if what they've learned is telling them that they need to go in a different direction and pivot and try something different, whether it's a new customer, a new problem, or a new approach. But being ready to pivot, even though it feels like a sunk cost and that sunk cost bias kicks in saying, I don't want to stop because I've invested so much time and effort in this, but being willing to set that all aside and move in a different direction. And finally, key learning number 5 is persistence. Just keep going. Oftentimes, it's those that don't quit that make it to the end. Even though others seem to be moving faster or getting more success, it could be that they don't end up going as far as it seems. And those that are just steadily moving things forward and persistent and refuse to give up are often the ones that make it to the end. WD-40, Dyson, and AirBnB. What these examples all have in common is resilience. In the startup world, resilience means the ability to recover quickly from setbacks, to adapt to change, and keep pushing forward despite challenges. It's not just about bouncing back, but learning, iterating, and growing stronger with each failure along the way. For more insights on turning setbacks into opportunities, check out my video, How to Determine the Root Cause of Failure. Keep going.